Okay, we're live. So, Grayson, can you describe a little bit about this place? Why you had the, how you came up with the idea of opening this place? And one of the things that I'm always curious about, how did you choose the name, the Powerlifting Institute? What do you want with this?
Well, I created this place with the idea of having a training facility for people to not have to worry about proper equipment, not having to worry about having proper spotters, just not having adequate stuff, because a lot of people say that they lift and they do this and they do that, but it was about giving them the best, so that way they actually knew what to use, what's included in this world that we live in as far as powerlifting, proper benches, monoliths, squat racks, but the main purpose of the gym itself was to create an institute so people can actually learn, hosting seminars, having classes, building a giant place to do massive classes, to do events, hosting more powerlifting events in Central Florida, just to grow what powerlifting is and what it is to me in this area.
What is powerlifting to you? Is it just a sport, a competitive sport? How do you see powerlifting?
To me, powerlifting is self. It's a competition against yourself, being better than you were the day before. So when you come in here and lift, you're not lifting for anybody else. You're lifting for yourself. When you go to a platform, you're going there to do better than you did the last time. And if you're able to accomplish feats and goals, then it's great and grandiose. But the purpose of it is to better yourself, your mind and soul, to be better. Because when people tell you you can't do something and that medically you're not going to be able to do it, you can defeat that by just training.
So basically, we can have from Eric Lillibridge to my 90-year-old mother here. Correct.
Our oldest person that comes here and train, very commonly is a 75-year-old woman who had osteoporosis. She's from the Villages. She competed her first time last year as a powerlifter. Did very well. However, her medical conditions have changed. They've shown a 25% bone growth. Her doctors over the past 7 months, just in the regrowing of bones and her flexibility and hip mobility, just her livelihood has changed 110%. Her moods, her activity. When she comes in here, she makes some of the younger girls in their 30s look like they're in the worst shape ever. Yesterday we had an 85-year-old man here training, and he pulled, 80-year-old man, and he was pulling 475 pounds off the floor like it was nothing.
Having fun, just in here doing what he used to do when he lifted in the 80s. Okay, what's like the relationship between the high performance athletes and these atypical athletes that you have? Older, injured, disabled. Is it a good relationship?
We have a great relationship with just athletes in general. We train a lot of high school athletes. We train a lot of amateur athletes. We train just athletes in general. And as far as the bond here, at 6 p.m. at night better explains what this place is. Because no matter what is going on, if someone's over there deadlifting, someone's over here benching, if someone's about to do anything over 87%, the whole gym is crowding around that person just because of that percentage load. The same thing goes. Most of the guys tonight that are on the powerlifting team here will be deadlifting. So
would it be correct to say that solidarity became automatic?
It became people that have never seen this within days just becomes a giant family. And there is no individualism here like you would see at a big commercial gym that has adequate equipment, but everybody there is headphones in, they're doing their own thing, they're following whatever they're doing. Here, everybody is together. All the coaches are motivating clients. When people are having bad days, everybody's there to kind of motivate them. And same with the coaches, which we have 6 of them here. We lift at a specific time during the day, but when clients are in here, we make sure we lift with them. We don't, go in high percentages. We stay really lightweight, like in hypertrophy, but we just kind of just move them around so that way they can see that we're not giant meatheads and that we actually care about the clients that come here. And that's why we have grown so
Education
fast.
and practice.
Education is key.
So before we go to explain this weird, fantastic thing, let's have a look at the gym. So first of all, we're on the bench press area, and
Yes.
let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 benches, and most of them have safety pins. So basically, the lifter is as safe as inside a power cage. And now let's see the power cages, because, okay, this is the assistance work equipment for everything. We're gonna go back here, the reverse hypers, but let me tell you something that really, really, really blew my mind. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 power cages, and we have 1 and 2 monoliths and another squat equipment. We have calibrated bumper plates here, okay? You can see good quality bumper plates. We have platforms so people can actually snatch and clean and jerk safely. We have a huge amount of plates. How much weight? How much would you say in pounds do you have in weight
As
here?
of last Friday, we have 18,000 pounds of weight.
Including the bumper plates and the
Bumper
iron.
plates, steel plates, and calibrated plates.
Okay. You have calibrated powerlifting plates too?
Bumper plates. We're
Oh,
waiting
okay.
for our
The
powerlifting
bumper.
plates to come in from
Okay.
Steve Finnison.
Do you have weightlifters here? Olympic
Yes,
weightlifters?
we do. We have a USAW level 3 and a level 1 coach that are coaches here, John Stevens and Tate Walden. And they do all the weightlifting stuff. We have the needle bearing bars, we have the technique bars, and we have the calibrated bumper plates for them.
I have
And
a
jerk
question.
blocks.
It's a curiosity. Who trains with them? Just the people who are concerned with weightlifting, or do people use weightlifting as assistance exercises to
We
other things?
actually encourage weightlifting with all of our powerlifting movements here, just for mobility and squatting.
I want to talk a little more about this because that's a big one. A lot of people don't believe that.
Knee mobility, hip mobility, shoulder mobility is key into anything. Like me, injury right now, I'm dealing with bicep tendonitis. Got to loosen up everything in order to do it. So I'll be doing a lot of like overhead movements today to kind of loosen up, get some blood flowing in the bicep area. But every one of our lifters here, mobility is what we stand by.
Do you also believe that the quick lifts improve power for the deadlift and the squat
it's
too?
kinetic. I mean, you're increasing speed, you're increasing explosiveness. One of the big problems that we see with people who sumo deadlift or conventional deadlift, if they're slow coming off the floor, we're going to power clean them. We're going to hang clean them. We're going to get that explosiveness off the floor. And front squats, there is no limit to what front squats are capable of building as far as squat transition. I mean, just getting down in that hole and getting below parallel is key.
That is something very important that Grayson just said. Most of the time when we teach powerlifters, the great challenge is to find the hole. So we spend a long time finding just to find the stand. but people who do front squats and do the quick lifts, they find the hole real fast. Don't you think so?
Yeah, well, it's natural. You're natural there, and you get that natural spring when you actually are hitting your hole where you need to. You get that pop, that essence that everybody says, that bounce that everybody looks for.
Fantastic. Let's go back to that strange. Okay, who's going to be the person to explain the strange? First of all, what is this?
Go ahead, Kate, explain it.
This is called a VersaPulley. It uses a flywheel to produce resistance instead of gravity and weight. They call it Dr. Evil. Anyways, I'm Tate. I'm one of the coaches here. Flywheel devices like this have been used in mostly European countries for the last 25 years or so, mostly to train athletes because it produces resistance that works off the force that you produce. If you produce 80 pounds of force, it responds by giving you 80. It also gives you dynamic resistance that changes. You can accelerate through the whole range of motion, similar to the way powerlifters use accommodating resistance, bands, chains, things like that. The difference is you can accelerate throughout any point, all the way through the whole movement. So it's much better for athletes. It's also better
So
for
you
athletes.
don't have that strength curve that
You don't have to
usually
worry about the strength curve. And also with athletes, a huge part of, like, if a powerlifter can get through a sticking point, then he can usually get through the whole lift. For an athlete, they have to be able to get to full extension. Full extension through the balls of the feet, through the hips and everything. That's how you produce force.
we're talking about weightlifters.
Weightlifters, but also actual, not actual athletes, but athletes
What do
as
you
far as being on the field. Being on the
Rugby
court.
players.
Yeah, football players, all those people who have to produce explosive power through the ground and through their
So you see the full extension of lower limbs and hip snap and stuff like that is critical.
Exactly.
Okay, I see what you mean.
And also with this, you can
And
actually...
this thing helps you with that?
Yes. Because instead of putting weight on your back, you are pulling against it. So
let's see how you do it.
right now I've got an Olympic lifter, and he's working on his second pull. So he's working on his pull from the knees up into full extension.
Let me take this back.
You want me to spin you up real quick?
I can spin it.
All right.
Thanks. So for him, he's going to be doing a jumping motion, but he's also going to be pulling with the hands as well. So if I wind this up,
Whoa, that's powerful hip snap. I've never seen that.
and I can drive through the balls of my feet, which is extremely dangerous if you're using traditional weights.
Oh yeah, can see that. That's something I never imagined it to. Let's see you do it, and what happens here?
So on the
So
concentric,
he's doing the same thing as I showed before.
I spin up the wheel, and then on the negative, it's going to pull back with the same amount of force that I create.
You see? Now we go. That's what he was doing, and you were seeing. And probably after a while, your butt feels like it's burning.
Oh, you're fried, quick.
Okay, these are the weights that you can load here.
Yeah, they changed the inertia of the flywheel.
Yeah,
So-
can you explain that to us?
Yes. So I can use it to adjust for the movement.
You see
Sorry.
that he's not tired?
I can use it to adjust for the movement. If I'm doing a rehab type movement,
Okay.
I can do like rear delt flies. Then I can go real light on the flywheel. Or if I'm going for speed, I can go real light on the flywheel. We can actually jump with this.
I saw you. I mean,
But I can literally jump off the ground. I've got belt squat.
if we download it, and we're going to do that, we're going to download this video for you guys, and you put it in slow motion, you get an air phase
Yeah.
in every little jump you did. I saw it.
And I've also got a track harness that I can put the ring on either the front or the back. And we can also hook this to the wall so we can do lateral movements. So I can do running takeoffs, or I can do sideways movements, lateral movements. Anything that an athlete's going to deal with on the field, I can replicate here.
Okay. So can you explain how we handle the?
Okay, yeah, I was talking about the weights. So
Yeah.
if I'm doing a lighter movement, a slower movement, or a really fast movement, I can take weights off the flywheel. It has less inertia, so it's easier to change its speed. It's easier to accelerate. If I have somebody who's really strong, or if I'm using bigger muscles, then I can add more weights. So to add these on, now what I can do is the exact same movement. But what you'll see is the wheel doesn't move as fast. It's harder to get it moving.
You see, that's a strong man, and he's not screaming because
It's a lot of force.
yes. You see, he's really tired. So,
I'm Tate.
Tate, are you also the weightlifting? One of the weightlifting.
I work with the
coaches
Olympic
here?
lifters here. Yeah.
Okay, the
I
Olympic
do
lifters.
personal training, but I also do the Olympic lifters, and I also work with our sport-specific training.
Okay.
Basketball players, MMA fighters.
So before I ask what you think about the transfer of this type of movement and the quick lifts and to the other real sports, let me ask you a little bit about your sports history. What is your sports background? What do
My
you
background?
do? What do you like
most
to
of
do?
the guys, I played high school football,
Okay,
and I realized that I like lifting a lot more than I liked playing football.
okay,
So I quickly became known as the know-it-all in the weight room because I started to research a lot. And of course, when you're 17 and you do a little research, you really do think you know it all.
yeah,
But
you
I kept learning a lot more.
you know everything at 17.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially when you've read a couple websites on this new internet they got. Man, that was big stuff.
That was big stuff.
The original bodybuilding doctor.
But I realized that was my passion, was training, learning how to train, or learning how to change somebody, improve their performance. I enjoyed that a lot more than the actual
Competing.
performance on the field. Yeah. So from there, it was just a matter of learning everything I could learn.
Do you still compete?
At the moment, no. I want to do some powerlifting, but at the moment, I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight.
Okay.
That's my
But
personal goal.
you did compete in powerlifting and weightlifting.
No,
No.
I haven't competed in those. Again, my passion is coaching.
Okay.
So,
Now tell us, because that's a big one. What is the great advantage for sports like American football, rugby, and MMA to learn how to do the lifts, the 5 lifts?
okay. I feel different than some people, which is going to sound weird coming from someone who coaches the Olympic lifts. The Olympic lifts are very skill-centered. It takes a lot of skill to be able to produce the powerful force.
Okay.
And if you don't have the skill, you're always going to be lifting sub-maximal weight. So it's really hard to actually produce maximal force with the Olympic lifts. So that's why even with my Olympic lifters, I still have them on devices like the VersaPulley. The VersaPulley is a low-skill movement because, again, I'm pulling.
Okay.
So I just
but
started-
produces really
So it's
important
a huge,
strength and
this is a
power.
huge part of what I do, even for the Olympic lifters. I do coach a power lifter, and I have him on this thing too, especially for hypertrophy, so we can back off on putting the bar on his back.
Can I ask you your position concerning one issue? People usually, they would fall in love with Olympic lifting for MMA, for rugby, for swimming, for everything, because of the development of power more than strength.
Yes.
And what you're saying is something important that a few other coaches are saying. So they're shifting to partial quick lifts. Do you believe in that? I mean, using like power snatches, cleans instead of the whole?
Yes,
Movement.
the power movements for athletes definitely. If you are limited to a barbell and weights, of it, you're still producing max force through the ground. You're still producing max force with the hip extension. The hip extension is everything because engaging the glutes is I always tell everybody that's the center of all athletic movement. There's your glutes. It ties in everything. Most people don't access their glutes, so their lower back is too active, and then that leads to big issues with their hips.
And then they lose scapular adduction.
Yes.
It's-
So
oh.
if you're using the power versions, the power snatch, the power clean, then you're going to have a lower skill variation of the full Olympic movement.
Okay. Do you believe that doing that they can make good use of the quick lifts without having to put so much of their neural energy into automatizing complicated movements?
Yes, yes. But I still think that people put too much emphasis on the Olympic variations, and I think they're overrated in general. And I think as people learn about, like I said, they've been using like VersaPulley flywheel technology. They've been using technology like this in Europe for the last 25 years. And anybody who really pays attention to sports science knows that the European countries have always been ahead of us. A lot of people think we caught up to them because we found all the manuals from the 40s and 50s, but they're still way ahead of us. They've been using this stuff for a long time. You bring it over here to America and people are like, oh, what is that? Meanwhile, they've got Globo gyms over there that have these things.
What about the static strength movements like the power lifts? What's the importance of these movements to the real sports?
Well, the power lifts,
What are the most important ones that you use with your athletes, let's say in MMA?
when it comes to the power lifts, you're talking about building the foundation. And like you got Louis Simmons, who always talks about how if you take a young lifter and you focus just on his squat maximal strength, his vertical leap will go up too, for a certain amount of time. But you reach a point of diminishing returns where getting that squat higher and higher, when you reach that 450, 500 number, you're not going to get any more improvement on the speed, the force production, the power, if you just focus on that maximal strength. But getting to that point is all about the power lifts. And having someone there who can coach them is also going to improve your ability to be aware of what your body's doing. When you have a bar on your back, you have to contract your arms just right. You have to do everything perfectly. It's not just about going down and coming back up. And that develops that body control that you can then use when you're ready to start moving to the more power type.
You're probably frequently challenged by other MMA coaches that are a lot into circuits and light stuff, and they don't believe in strength anymore.
We're dealing with that.
Oh, look at this face.
We're actually dealing with this right now as we speak.
The concept of sport-specific training drives me crazy because when people hear sport-specific, you think of a basketball player shooting a heavy ball. Like, no! First off, that's going to throw off their skill movement. It's going to throw off the timing of the actual shot because you're having to do something else. Not to mention, it's not going to have any carryover because you're not actually strengthening the muscles. When you're talking about sport-specific training, you talk about looking at what an athlete does and improve their ability to do that. So people say, oh, sport-specific is stupid, so we're just going to do powerlifting. And other people say, oh, powerlifting is useless, so we're just going to do sport-specific. And you can't just throw out potentially useful tools because they may not be useful at the moment for that particular athlete. So if you're building a foundation, then there is nothing better than 5 sets of 5 on squats and deadlifts. There's nothing better than that. But you're going to reach a point where that's not going to be useful anymore for an MMA athlete, for a basketball player. So you start to move into the more explosive stuff. And then you start to say, okay, what does this athlete do on the court? What does this athlete do on the field? How can I replicate that? I got an MMA fighter in here. He's on the ground with the VersaPulley hooked up to the wall, and he's moving along the ground like he's shooting in to take the legs out of somebody. That's what MMA fighters do. It's not about putting a weight on somebody's back and having them do the same jump they always do. It's about building those specific capacities that athlete is going to need.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Don't you think there's a little misconception about the specificity principle? Like specificity principle is always interpreted as movement specific when actually research is showing that it's function specific.
Yeah.
We're talking about function.
It's function specific, it's trait specific, it's energy system specific. You got 3 different energy systems, but they're always working intertwined with one another. So you have to look at what does this athlete need on the court, but also what is this specific athlete lacking? Because when you're talking about specificity, you can be extremely high on specificity with a powerlifter because you know exactly what they're going to do.
Great, I'm loving this interview. I'm sorry if I'm taking your time. So I'm going to ask you a question. When you have a new group of, let's say a team of MMA fighters or a team of football players, is your first assessment their deficiencies or injuries? What's your first assessment?
My first assessment is just to talk to them.
Is what?
Talk to them.
Okay. And what do you ask? What are the main questions?
You know, it's hard to even say. I sit down and say, what do you think your weaknesses are? And what do you think your strengths are? And what do you think you need to improve specifically? And it's interesting how quickly someone will open up. First off, when you let them open up, and second off, when you show that you're interested in what they have to say. That's the biggest thing is, as a coach, I've seen other coaches, an athlete comes in and they say, this is what you're going to do. Now do it. I'm just like, especially, and this may sound condescending, especially with females. You have to say, okay, how do you feel about what we're doing? Do you feel comfortable with this? And that's not just something I just do with females, but it's something I definitely learned from those experiences. Is
do you
saying,
feel
okay,
they open up better than the boys?
yes, but it's also more important to have them
Why do you
feel
think
like
they
they
open
can.
up better than the boys?
Now you're baiting me. Now
No,
you're
I
baiting
mean, I'm having the time of my life in the
Yeah.
interview.
Well, how can I say this without sounding?
Our gym's 70% female.
Oh yeah.
No, be honest. There's something good there.
Well,
There's something important.
women and men generally have different needs.
Okay.
Men need you to tell them what to do, and tell them if they're doing something wrong. Whereas women usually need the emotional support, and they need you to tell them when they're doing something right as well.
Okay.
With a guy, if I say nothing, he's just going to keep doing what he's doing.
But you're saying something more here, which is possibly a PhD thesis. What you're saying is the girls are more capable of understanding their own deficiencies and providing that to you as a coach.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, women are far more self-aware in general.
Hi, this is the voice behind the interview. Did you hear that? Please say it again.
I can't remember exactly what I said.
You said that women are more self-aware.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, I'm constantly at this point where I'm trying to say something and say it in a positive way.
And do you think that's specific for female athletes? Because there's a whole thing about females being not self-aware of their bodies because they're being repressed for so long. But are you talking about female athletes or females in general? When you have someone who's never trained, can they tell you what they feel their bodies are not doing better?
Usually new people in general are very unaware of how their body's even supposed to work.
And regardless of gender?
Regardless of gender, yeah.
Right.
And so there's a lot of talking involved and me pointing out, okay, we're doing this movement, watch how your shoulder moves. This is what we call rotation, and this is how it should be moving, this is how it should be positioned. So this is what we're gonna do to get you from here to here. And people tend to pick up on it pretty quickly. And that's not gender specific. I have a female personal training client I'm working with right now. She was very quick at learning how to control the positions of her body and where her knees were and where her arms were. Her movement quality improved dramatically very quickly.
What you're saying then is that female athletes are more self-aware of their deficiencies and what they need.
Maybe not necessarily more in that sense compared to a man, but on the emotional side of things.
Okay.
They tend to not be more needy, but that's just more important to them. So a lot of guys might say, "Oh, I don't
pay
like,
more attention.
I don't like
what's
dealing
wrong
with women because there's all the emotion involved." Well, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that tends to be something they need more than a guy.
You see, again, this interview is fantastic because what you're saying is the emotional component of a description of an account actually makes the account more complete to the coach.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because if someone's not comfortable doing something, they can't go 100% at it.
Okay, that's it. Let's stop for the moment. We'll have more interviews later. Thank you, Tate. Thank you, Grayson.